Hello, and welcome to the allure of fashion and the intrigue of great books. If you think you've read everything there is about vampires, think again. When is a vampire no longer a vampire? Today, we're going to dive into a world not seen before and accessorized with classic black. I'm your host, Wendy Kendall, and I have big news to share. The first of my 5 books published with the Wild Rose Press, Cat Out of the Bag, is available in paperback from Harlequin Books. See for yourself at harlequin.com. Cat is Catherine Watson, purse designer and sleuth. As Catherine moves from designer bags to body bags, she's uncovering clues to a murder. And for those of you ready for spring, my read for you is rom-com mystery Cherry Shakes in the Park. Bryson is training for track and field Olympic trials. His coach's brother disappears. What Bryson and his coach uncover leaves Bryson cornered, his life at risk. Bryson is also plagued by mysteries of the heart. His ex, Maria, is back and stars in the acting troupe's weekend show in the park. She stomped on his heart once. Can he trust her with it again? Marta's co-star, Sinona, charms Bryson over Cherry Shakes in the Park. He's torn between rekindling his past or starting a new flame. Danger escalates during a midsummer night's at desolate Loon Point. Please check my website, wendywritesbooks.com, for more on all my books. And thank you so much to all the readers who told me how much they enjoyed my books. My guest today is author m.flagg, a fabulous author who writes tales of love and redemption in the realm of the paranormal. m.flagg's imaginative world is full of mystical warriors, witches, and the not-so-normal vampires. Always an avid reader, the realm of paranormal fiction is her favorite genre. She chooses to spin stories full of passion and the paradox of love. Her writing style has been compared to Anne Rice and Stephen King. Now a retired music teacher and an urban school administrator, she is a published author with 5 novels in the genre. She's a contributor in a book on urban music education and has published a piece in Still Standing, a web magazine about loss and healing. Named a distinguished music educator at the 2010 Yale Music Symposium, m.flagg is a lifelong New Jersey resident, a member of Liberty State's Fiction Writers and NJRW, and has served as a professor in residence with a local university. Welcome, m.flagg, in pursuit of fashion and fiction.
Thank you so much for having me, Wendy, and many blessings to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, Mickey, the main character in the first 3 books of your series, The Champion Chronicles, is a mystically enhanced vampire who regained his soul with some heavenly help. Can you please tell us about your paranormal romance suspense series?
Well, thank you. The Champion Chronicles, the main character is Michael, and as we say, or as I created, a mystically enhanced vampire who regains his soul and he seeks retribution for something that occurs in his life that blows everything up. But in the end, he ends up on a journey to redemption. The readers will be introduced to a group called the Georgian Circle, which is a secret society who has tagged them his champion, their champion. As his existence changes, so does his reality. So the first 3 books in the series, The Vampire's Retribution, Mystical Consequences, and His Soul to Keep, we experience his journey. Book 4 will pick up 15 years later with his mystically human son. Michael will still be in the picture, but the story moves on from there and comes into the present time.
Well, you're writing about a character who should be intrinsically evil, but chooses the most difficult path to redemption. It creates fascinating possibilities. Can you tell us about your vampire protagonist?
Well, he was turned in 1690. He was a brash young Englishman who came to the New York colonies. He didn't exactly lead a great moral life, but something in his past caused his faith to flounder. And when he's caught in an affair, he's put on a sire's radar, let's put it that way. 200 years later, he's given the choice to either meet final death or to master the demon within himself. We know that he's going to choose to redeem himself and master the demon within, and it sets him on a singular path. And he decides to destroy soulless creatures like him and save innocence. A century later, he makes another choice, and that's why he ends up with this sense of retribution. He does have a human son, which is a mystery as to why, but you'll have to keep reading the series to find out why. And he falls madly in love with a guardian who is really there to stake him, but he ends up falling madly in love with her and she becomes his soulmate.
Wow. Oh my gosh. There's so much to this. Okay, now, what can you tell us about a vampire's fashion sense?
Yeah, you wouldn't think that a vampire would have a fashion sense. But when you think about the character, first of all, Michael will always wear black. His basic or dark colored shirts or black, definitely black jeans, not blue jeans. And he's a casual kind of guy. So he'll usually have a black shirt with his sleeves rolled up. That's his MO. And he's very comfortable in that. And of course, he's going to wear something akin to boots on his feet. He won't be ever caught in sneakers and or loafers, but although in the second book he ends up in the loafers. His and he is a dark colored person. Alana, on the other hand, his soulmate, when I envisioned her, I saw her in pale pinks, pale lilacs. She likes those light colors. She's Italian. She's dark skinned. Uh, you know, uh, think of your classic Sophia Loren when she was younger, with nice long brown chestnut hair. So Alana will always prefer the light colors. His son has incredibly blue eyes. They're unnaturally blue. They're very, very dark. So as Lucas comes into the picture, he's usually, when he's older, not when he's a kid, he's in t-shirts and jeans, but he is always going to go towards the dark blues. And then in book 4, we meet a very interesting vampire, a true anomaly who lives in the moral shades of gray. And Draven will always wear a suit. He will never be out of a business suit. That's the way he's always going to dress, with a black shirt, a black silk tie, and a very expensive suit. So even though they're dressed in dark colors, which they seem to gravitate to, I don't see vampires as colorful things. The female vampire, however, Luna, will be in much paler shades, very much like Alana. She will, color comes into their fashion sense and who they are. They're not like, just roaming the streets. They have a purpose, and their clothes usually reflect who they are, the same way we do.
Can you tell us what appeals to you most about writing books in your genre?
I love world building, and I love to be able to manipulate the world. I think there is so much. I can't really write reality. I don't like to write the world and murder and things like that. I prefer the paranormal world. I like to get creative with the storyline, and I like to my characters to be able to move out of who they should be. So when you write in my genre, and my genre is filled with so many different types of vampires and so many different types of witches and warlocks and all those different types of mystical beings, you're freer to create the world where you want them to be. You have different flavors of paranormal. And in my books also, um, I wanted in my genre I wanted to have a sense of family. If you've read J.R. Ward's Black Dagger Brotherhood, you know there's a strong sense of family. Um, Different vampires, they have their cadres or their groups, and they live in their lairs. But I didn't want that. I wanted always to have a strong sense of family within my books. So I do, even though I'm in this particular genre. And even though my characters have other worldly abilities, they also have anomalies. There's no two people alike in our world. And in my genre, in my reality, in my creative world that I have, it's the same thing. They have different personalities and they have different personality traits. Some of them are going to get into trouble, and some of them are going to find redemption.
Well, that's fantastic for a reader to have the different personalities. Perfect. What can you tell us about your newest book, the fourth in your series, Night of the Crescent Moon?
When I decided to continue writing the series and I took it into the present day now, into the 15 years later, um, I I find myself always drawn to the moon. And the first thing that came to me was the title. And the second thing that came to me was a minor character in book one who literally has one line. I just kept seeing her, and I wanted the book to be about her. Her name is Martine. She is a Kendrick witch. It's a family of witches, and she is an ER nurse. And someone comes into her ER one night, and he's not in a natural coma. Something is off, and she senses it. But the only person that can really help him, pull him, find out, because this, of course, there's another realm. There are two other realms in my books, a vampire realm and a realm for the witches and the warlocks. In order for someone to go back to the second realm, the realm of the witches and warlocks, and locate the dark witch who put him under the spell, she needs a superhuman being. And that only person could be Lucas, because he's mystically human. And of course, they're the same age. They're both in their 30s. They had a fallout 5 years ago that was actually very devastating, and they never spoke again. And she kind of finagles her mother and everybody around her to make that call and make that ask of him. And when he comes back to New York City and he comes back to help her, you find out that there's more to both of them, and that they both have, she's lost a child. She's had a really terrible time of it. And he's been more or less lost without her friendship for all these years. So they're going to reconnect. In the meantime, this in the Night of the Crescent Moon takes this character who is under this dark spell, and his story will continue the saga. That makes any sense?
It actually sounds very intriguing. Yes, it does make a lot of sense. Would you treat us to a reading from your paranormal romance suspense series, The Champion Chronicles?
Yes, I would. I'm going to read from the second book. I love the second book, Mystical Consequences, because that's where Michael makes the biggest change. That's where all of the characters have to make a change. And to me, so the whole thrust of the book is taking you out of the paranormal world, but you still have your problems, but you have to face real world reality. You have to live in this world. So this is a reading midway through Mystical Consequences, when Michael's body begins to change and he's not sure why, but suddenly he's able to tolerate the sun and he's able to walk in the day, but he's still a vampire. So here we go. A delicate pale pink rose, the first thing Alana saw when her eyes opened, rested beside her pillow. The note written in his familiar old world script read, "Breakfast awaits. You know the way." Gently she caressed the vibrant bud, its scent subtle and sensual. He remembered her favorite color, her favorite flower. Fighting the urge to run to him, she showered and dressed for the day. She chose comfortable jeans and a thin sweater that matched the flower's hue. In front of the mirror for a final look, her nerves did a jangling dance. Thousands of dreams about talking to him again. Now, all she had to do was walk down a flight of stairs. In a moment of uneasy weakness, she went to the window to view the cloudless morning. She took in a sharp breath of fresh sea air, thinking, "Am I ready to face you?" When Alana entered through the open door, he stood by the dining room table. She noticed the leather loafers she had purchased, something he'd never normally wear. Slow and determined, he approached, already probing her expression for a sign. With a lean down, he kissed her cheek. The brush of his thin lips didn't feel cold, which intrigued her. Another pale pink rose graced her plate. "I remember buying these settings for you in Pisa. Now it seems a lifetime ago. And the clothes you chose for me, my guardian, are exactly my taste. Thank you." With the manners of a true gentleman, he seated her. A cup of coffee had been prepared the way she liked it, on the dark side, with a little sugar. A bowl of red, fresh berries stood next to the plate. He put 2 slices of aromatic cinnamon toast on her plate, on her dish, and spread a small amount of sweet butter across them. He knew her preference. Neither spoke, neither could. Michael sat across from her, 5 feet in a world of regret away. With his arms folded on the table, he took in her every move. In silence, he sipped his coffee. She did the same. "Please eat something," he said. Her stomach did another dance. He'd always been a very good cook, and not wanting to insult him, she took small bites. Lucas came into the room, gave a carefree hello, and left. She'd never seen such an easy smile on Michael. He pointed to the plate with a grin. Another full minute of awkward silence passed as she tried to eat. Then suddenly he stood. "More coffee? Thanks." When he came closer to fill her cup, her heart skipped a few beats. Bathed in morning light, he looked more than handsome. The sight of him thrilled her. So did his charming smile. When he sat in full sun at her side, she tried not to stare, aware that he wasn't planning to return to the other end of the table into the shadows. "Pretty amazing, isn't it?" Hmm. As he placed the pot on a folded towel, his smile disappeared. "I'm so very sorry for what I put you through." He looked as nervous as she felt. Sitting back, she willed her hands to stay flat on the tables. "I hear your sincerity. I hear it in your voice, and the last thing I want to do is argue. I know you, Michael. I understand your need for revenge. But you should have told me about Lucas. You should have told me why you went there. You didn't, and—" Defeat swept across his face. In direct sun, every intense, chiseled feature seemed more pronounced. The small lines on his strong brow, the warmth of his eyes framed with thick, dark lashes, the angles of his face. It was difficult to breathe. "Alana?" I'm sorry. This didn't seem real. We're not having this conversation after sunset." His not so chilly hand gently came over hers. "Can we? Can we, darling?" Another flutter of her heart happened upon hearing that word. "Can we have a long, truthful conversation? I've missed you more than you'll ever know, my guardian." Slowly, her head shook. This was exactly what she wanted, but only on her terms. "You've had years of explaining to do. Unless you're willing to answer every question, to fill in every detail, I'm not interested in vagaries that have no meaning. I want to hear it all." "That would take a very long time," she answered. "I've got the rest of my life." Leaning back, he nodded. "Warm sun on my shoulders is something I never expected to experience again, but being with the woman I love is more than a dream come true." The look he gave her kissed her soul. "I'll regret the day I did what I did to you in that September evening, but this story begins long before I talked to you." And just as his soulmate requested, he didn't leave out the smallest detail.
Wow. Wow. That is beautiful. That,
Thank you.
what a compelling scene. Oh my gosh. Loved it.
First time she sees him in daylight.
Wow. Oh, okay. That was wonderful. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
for letting me read. Thank you.
much. Mickey, what's important to you when creating suspense in a scene that you're writing?
Well, I ask why my characters are doing what she or he is doing, first of all. I try to give the reader a reason to care about the character's fate. And even if it's a vampire or a mystical warrior, Wendy, you have to know his or her state of mind. And I give smatters of information, just enough to poke and to pose and to poke through their actions and reactions and get some more important questions. And also the sensory perception in a scene helps a reader invest in the situation they're in. Even if it's a will he or won't he, the mood has to build, and the mood builds the suspense. And it's far out of the character's personality or part of his dark side, and whichever it's going to be. It's the way you create the scene and the way you give little bits of information along the way that makes the suspense finally happen.
Well, in your newest book, can you talk about examples in that book of how you use fashion aspects, maybe accessories or color or visual personalization to show readers the aspects of personality in your characters?
The night of the crescent moon takes place in October. Martine, the main character, is an ER nurse and she will only wear purple scrubs. She's on a special team and purple is her color. There's purple mugs in the house. There's purple everything. She loves the color purple. Um, and of course, as I said, you know, because it's fall, you get the sense of that um the fall colors, and I love the fall. That's my favorite season. I think that's why I put the book in that season. The rusty colors, the leaves turning, all those different aspects are going to be brought in the book, and I use it that way. Again, Lucas is always going to have on a dark blue shirt that matches his eyes, and Michael is still going to be dressed in black. That hasn't changed. But there are two different portals to two different worlds. And when I was creating the book, I needed something to make them different. And I said, you know what? The the witch and warlock realm is going to be shades of gray. It has to be. And the portal will change colors to rusty red when it comes to the vampire realm. So there's a use of color that way too. And just when you think about many fantasy movies, you think about the difference. Like Dune is very low colored, especially Dune, the first Dune. It's a very neutral scene. And then you go to something like Indiana Jones or Star Wars, and there's vivid color all around. And there's always, of course, the black and the white of things. And I like that because most of my vampire Draven, his lair, his home will be in shades of gray because that's the character he is. So I think color draws people in. It defines a character as well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, color impacts our daily lives, and it's a powerful tool in the world of fashion and fiction. It
Yes.
evokes emotions, like you've said, and conveys messages and plays a crucial role in characters' clothes and accessories. So, understanding the color psychology helps fashion enthusiasts make intentional choices. Different colors evoke different emotions and associations. For example, red is bold, passionate, attention grabbing. Blue is calm, trustworthy, and professional. Yellow's energetic, cheerful, and optimistic. Black is sophisticated, elegant, and timeless. White is pure, clean, and fresh. Green is natural, calming, and associated with growth. And your purple is regal, creative, and mysterious. And the same color may hold a number of different meanings depending on its context and hue. Warm tones like orange, red, and yellow give feelings of excitement and energy while drawing attention. Cool tones like blue, purple, and green evoke serenity, effortlessness, and relaxation. Neutral colors like black, white, brown, and gray are usually associated with authority, elegance, and security. And primary colors encourage a playful look. The study of colors shows how it shapes the perception of fashion or the person or the book's characters. Describing a character's clothing can have a purpose. For example, opposing characters can be visually contrasted through their clothing. A clash of styles or colors can highlight conflicts. Clothes can define a character and help with the story's trajectory. What the characters are wearing can tell us volumes about their means and motives. Writers should think like costume designers. The costume designer for a movie uses the color, texture, and fit of a garment to provide details about a character's self-image, social position, and relationships to others in the story. And having the right facts about the clothing your characters are wearing is especially important when writing historical fiction. Throughout history, color has been used to distinguish social class. In history, purple was often worn by members of royalty, and indigo has often represented the working class. While society has progressed and changed, colors continue to make a statement depending on who is wearing what. Embrace the power of color and let it be your ultimate fashion statement. Experiment with different hues, understand their impact, and make informed decisions that reflect your style and desired message in your clothes and in your accessories, especially your purses. Mickey, I'm curious, how has your background in music influenced your writing?
Well, I think the creative nature, everyone is a sum of their past. And I read music before I read words.
Mm.
The piano was purchased for my older sister. She didn't like her lessons, but I don't know why. I would sit down and I could understand. I knew what I was doing. So, music and the background of it, I don't need to listen to a piece to hear it in my head, if that makes any sense to you. And music can be just as vivid that way for me. That's a vivid picture itself. The concept of harmony and dissonance with your characters as well as any composition. There's all of the arts are so intertwined. And of course, I always have my Draven is also a concert pianist. So my vampire has musical skills. I gave him that.
Oh,
But the emotions expressed in either a lullaby or a love song, it doesn't matter. They're just sounds or colors of tones. And when you put them together like the color of words, it creates a novel. I think my musical background and the fact that I conducted choruses and I played the piano and I taught the subject, it all helps to build who the person you are today. And it's part of my past and it's part of me. It's always been a part of me.
beautiful. What do you find the most fun part of the process of writing a book?
Well, Wendy, I think writing a book is like doing a puzzle. It's like creating a puzzle. And I love puzzles. So I might start out with all the what ifs, and then they just take me into my characters. I'm a pantser. I do not plot. So I love puzzles and that's what it is. It's putting everything together. I choose to make my puzzle with witches and warlocks and vampires and mystical warriors. That's the only difference because it's paranormal. And one of my favorite processes, you probably have never heard this before, but my favorite writing process is the edit process. I love to edit. I have to honestly say, I love the concept of picking up, and rewording it and finding until it has the right tempo and it has the right flow of the words. So yeah, I really love editing.
Well, m.flagg, thank you so much for sharing this fashion and fiction fun with us. And can you tell us again the release date for your newest book and what's coming up next for your readers to look forward to?
Well, I do not have a release date yet for Night of the Crescent Moon. I'm waiting for that email because everything is done and everything was signed off on. In the meantime, I also have a novella out on Amazon called Awaken His Soul, and that's ebook and print. It should be in print within the next few days. And that's a self pub. And it's the story of, if you've never read a vampire story before and you kind of want an introduction, this is the story of Michael in 1928 when he meets the first Kendrick witch. So that's on. And then my fifth book, which is called Memories of a Hunter's Moon, will be Draven's book, another vampire. And I'm going to see when that is going to be ready to go to edits and so forth. So that's where
Fantastic.
I'm at.
Fantastic. Listeners, you want to check out the website m.flagg with two G's dash author.com, m.flagg-author.com, and find out more about Mickey's books.
Thank
And
you.
yes, thank you. And listeners, you're invited to my website, wendywritesbooks.com, to see my books and explore more on fashion and fiction. Thank you, listeners, for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And join me next time for the allure of fashion and the intrigue of great books.